Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Smoko podcast. My name is Alexis Armstrong, your host. Nice to meet you. The Smoko podcast is the place to celebrate and highlight women, trans women, and non binary folk working within STEM and trade occupations. So please tune in, take a break, and join us. We are on Smoko. And today we are extremely lucky to be joined by Allison Short, who is a safety management consultant. She works within the safety space. She started in arts and then transitioned. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. She's completing her master's in industrial and organizational psychology. So that's going to be really cool to learn about that and how it relates to safety. She is also the host of the Illusion of Safety podcast, a co host. And we're going to talk a lot about her show and about how it has formed, her process, her mission. And then we're going to talk a little bit about community in this space as well and kind of being a woman within this space. So it's going to be a huge conversation. I can't wait to get into it. Allison, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm so excited. Like I'm honestly already just having like quick like hellos. It's awesome to meet you. It's so nice to see you and it's like super fun and energetic, which is just not what you expect from safety. So I'm so excited to get into that part of it cuz like you have an idea of like what it means to be a safety professional and it's not something that is fun and peppy. Like it is something that's like maybe a little bit old and maybe a little bit dry. And so I was wondering maybe if we could talk about that first. If we could right off the get go, like talk about your background because like you started in arts, you have this huge passion for safety management. Could you kind of speak to that transition and then why someone is like peppy and energetic? Like what about safety where you're like, yep, this is it. This is for me. The books and the regulations.
Like you're saying, we already were like, I feel like this is just meant to be. Like I was going to be on the show. I love everything about
Mhm.
this. Yeah, I have an arts background. So my schooling, I got a bachelor's of fine arts in dance.
Cool.
Highly applicable to safety. So I laugh and say that, but I do think it is. So when I was getting my degree, I thought that I was going to change the face of art education
Mm.
and really like was certified to teach dance K through 12 in the United States in my state and really was excited. Like I loved the process piece of dance. I loved the kind of creation and
Mm.
seeing that transition happen where you kind of go from anything goes to
Yeah.
like that now we've created this thing and it exists now. And not very much of education is that
Mm-mm.
there's a lot of politics and so I go into safety. I don't know, but so I realized that maybe that wasn't the path for me. I didn't want to go to high school every day,
Mm.
and so had to find a job. Now I'm this art kid that needs to make a paycheck, so that's fun. And ended up working for a large utility company subsidiary
Mm.
down here, and they just kind of took a chance on me. And I had a great mentor who said, I was doing kind of data entry, which
Mm.
was terrible, but was a job, and I was happy to have that.
Yeah.
And my who would become my mentor, Steve, he said, "Hey, if you're interested, why don't you come do safety and see if you like it?" And my dad actually has started in environmental. He was a
Mm.
geologist in
Oh,
his
okay.
early career. Yeah, I know. I
Love
saw your
it. I love
exactly, exactly. I was like, you'll be a fan.
it.
And so I've grown up with
Mm.
this. My dad did geology and then went into environmental auditing and consulting, and then oddly enough ended up kind of on the safety piece of doing ISO audits for
Mm.
safety for various organizations internationally. And he would take all these pictures and just show them to us kids when he came home. He's like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, look at this cool plant. Look at this
Aw.
manufacturing process." So I didn't grow up doing this, but I
Mm.
did have this like
In the
in
background.
the back of my mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that would be cool. I never thought that I would have a route to this, but now I get to talk shop with my dad, which is pretty
Aw,
cool.
that's really beautiful. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That and like at that moment when you were introduced with it and you like met your mentor and he was like, okay, like this is the path. Did it just kind of click? Like, were you like, okay, this is actually, I really like this? Or like, how was that transition that you were like, okay, now I'm in it and I'm safety? Like, how did that happen?
That's an awesome question. So I think, like everyone, we go in these phases
Yeah.
of everything is awesome. Everything is terrible. Everything's awesome again. You've seen those like art
Yes.
memes of people who are creating. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, I am the artist. Like, this is how I operate. And so I think initially it's like, oh, this is amazing. I
Mm,
could do safety. I love everything about this. And I was doing kind of dual roles of safety and marketing at the same
mm,
time. And so for me, it was very easy to go, oh, I do not want to market anything ever. Don't put
yeah.
me in that. I don't want to be in sales. Absolutely not. And
Mhm.
then the irony is now I am
In marketing.
essentially selling safety at all
Yeah.
times.
Yes, you are.
You know,
Yeah.
and whether you are a consultant or you actually are an organization, all the time in our industry, we talk about legitimately you are a salesperson. You are trying to get
Mhm,
buy-in from people to kind of woo them, get them over
mhm.
onto your side, of understanding how safe work can be profitable and functional and efficient. So that's the irony that I hated marketing. It was like, oh, I'll do safety, absolutely. And then really, I mean, legitimately from that point, it was incredibly difficult. And I did a lot of teaching myself, a
Mm,
lot of math, a lot of
mhm.
science. Like I did not go to school for this. And so legitimately, it's hard for me sometimes just to realize, oh, I work in STEM. Like I'm a
Yeah.
person who
Yes, you
works in
are.
STEM
Yeah.
because for so many years, I was the person saying, well, those
Didn't
those science
self-identify.
people,
Mhm,
I never want to be that person. I never want to sit behind a desk. And now
mm.
I'm saying, yes, let's teach all the girls all the science. Can they code? Can we give them hammers? What do
Yeah.
we need to do? You know, I am like the fanatic, you know, any woman welder, I'm your new best friend, like
Yeah.
everything. And so it's just really, it's been interesting to kind of navigate that from my person as well, to kind
Mhm.
of go, oh, this is, the world is a lot broader and there's a lot more cool stuff out there than I originally thought.
Those are 2 funny full circle moments and, like, kind of full, like, self-discovery moments too of, like, being like, "Nope, I'm not gonna go marketing, and I'm an art kid, I'm a dancer," and then being like,
Yes.
"Actually, you're also a scientist, and now you are this, like, marketing safety," and that's an interesting idea of, like, that safety as a concept is, like, a marketing concept. One more kinda, like, follow-up question because I thought it was interesting at the very, very start, like, I had no idea that you were a dancer, but at the very start, you were like, I actually do feel that dancing is
Mm,
related to my job and that like I'm still kind of a dancer and it's still like an art. Could you kind of draw into that? Is it still your
yeah.
vision of being an artist or is it like a movement thing and a process flow thing? How are those related?
Yeah, that's my favorite kind of question.
Mm,
So I think it was difficult. Like it was really
mm,
hard for me to make that change career wise
mm-hmm,
because so much of my person and my life and everything, like everyone that saw me was like, oh, you're the dancer. Oh, you're going
mm-hmm.
to open a dance studio, right? And I'm like, absolutely
I don't
not.
know.
I don't want to
Yeah.
do that. You know, I don't want parents yelling at me because their
Oh,
children aren't in the front of the dance
no.
studio, you know, like,
The politics are brutal. Those
yes,
are worse than any
exactly.
type of politics. Dance moms are to be feared at all
Yeah,
times.
absolutely. Yeah, as they should be, you know? And so it was hard to go, okay, this thing that you've spent your whole life, I mean, I had 25 years of my life. That was
Mhm,
me. That's everything
mhm.
that anyone knew about me. And then to change that and to talk about safety, which, like you said, is something that people go, I
On
don't want to
first
talk
pass.
about that. Yeah, like
Yeah.
cool. How you're gonna
Mhm.
OSHA, have
Great.
fun.
Yeah,
So I would
like
go from hanging out with people, you know, we go to dinner parties or we have these
Mhm.
like you're out at the barbecue and people are like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I used to say, oh,
Dancer.
I dance. I'm a professional
Mhm.
dancer. I teach dance to children. And they're like, oh, that's amazing. And we
Mm.
had this great conversation and story. And then it changed to, oh, I work in safety.
Ooh.
And people are like,
See you later.
I'll be back. You
Yeah.
know, we gotta flip the burgers. And so it was hard, and it's hard to kind of, I had to get through that mental gap of
Mhm.
what I thought my life was going to be, which we all do,
Mhm.
what I
Yeah.
thought my life was going to be, to what it is going to be, you know, what it is
Yeah.
at this present moment.
Or you
And then you
found or
go,
discovered. Yeah.
yeah. And then you go, oh my gosh, the world is so large. Like I
Mhm.
all the time, I think I kind of joke and say it's my second career is safety
Mm.
because even though it was my first, you know, kind of, this is my first job,
Second
but
identity.
it
Yeah.
is. It's like I've shifted over to this thing and it kind of makes me go, who knows what's going to be next, you
Yeah.
know, like it's this kind of way of looking at the world. And so to answer your actual question, after I wax poetic about this, I think that being able to pivot, being
Mm.
able to think on your feet, to kind of constantly go, okay, what do I do next? This
Where am
is
I
not what I
going?
expected. Let's change.
Mhm.
Like that improv ability to kind of just move and change and be different. I think being able to speak to people and be up in front of them and kind of be okay with that is really helpful. I have a lot of my colleagues that really struggle with being able
Mhm.
to present themselves well and feel comfortable speaking to various groups of people. And I laugh and go, well, I mean, I used to teach 5-year-olds in tutus. And I think for me personally, it's probably easier to train, a room of
Oh,
45 grown men who how to operate a forklift, like
100%. Like that, your old job was like the definition of like herding cats. Like those two girls will
literally.
just be scatter, right? Like,
Yes,
yes, I
yes.
could see that.
Yeah, and those skills, you go, oh,
Yeah.
that's all the same skills, like the
Mhm.
same things that I did to get all these crazy kids in tutus to pay attention. It's the same thing. And I think that like that acceptance as well. The best parts of the art world are really open and are
Mhm.
really accepting of people and of different ideas and of
Mhm.
change. And so
Mm.
I think I bring that different perspective also to the work that I do in safety.
Thank you so much for the answer because it
Yeah,
was so gorgeous and it like I love that point of like transformation and just how beautiful that is of like just self-discovery and like also how freeing it is to be like who knows what the next chapter is going to be. Like it just does kind of set you up to be open I guess to your own change and your own self-transformation and that's really beautiful to see.
yeah,
And like it's cool to also see those skills from dance kind of become applicable in safety because again I don't think it's that you wouldn't expect those skills to be transferable. I think it's the fact that people have no idea what safety is. And I think they
right.
have this like idea of safety is something really bland. Like that like I could feel you that
Yeah.
idea, that story of people like leaving you at the barbecue. You're like, "Yeah, I could
Like,
completely see it." Cuz people have this really like rigid view of safety and OSHA and like kind of people coming down on you with a clipboard. And
mm-hmm,
I was wondering
mm-hmm.
if we
Oh,
could
the
go
clipboard. Yeah, let me tell you.
yeah, like
Yep.
you have that stereotype. Like that is the stereotype of
Yes,
like
yes. And I look
checklist.
like the woman in the picture with the, like the one that they make fun of. That it is
No.
me. Yeah. Yeah.
I never put that together, but it kind of it does have a similarity to it. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Hmm. Hmm.
As in, if we could go maybe there for the next one, like if we could talk a little bit about like what safety actually does, like what is your role as a safety management consultant? Like,
Yeah.
and what is a typical day for you? I don't know if that exists, but like if it does, like what are you doing and like what is your role? What does safety happen? It's not a clipboard, it's not OSHA, it's not dry. Like what is
Right.
safety?
Yeah. Great question. So I think safety is this career that I wish that I knew. I mean, I guess I kind of knew it
Mm,
existed. My dad's doing kind of consulting, so I a little bit knew about it, but I didn't really understand what the job was. And it's
mm.
it's this job that I wish that I could shout from the rooftops. And I kind of
Yeah,
do it
you
now,
do.
but I thank you for giving me this platform, right? But I think that I didn't understand that this kind of work existed. I think safety is dynamic. Obviously, it exists because we had people who were
Mhm,
getting injured at work.
mhm.
We have workplaces that did not have any set rules or expectations or demands for safe work, for protecting the employees that are doing those jobs. And so that's why safety exists now. We had the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, and because of that, we found Frances Perkins, who's kind
Mhm.
of our godmother of safety, is what what I like to call her.
Love it.
And so she saw these mainly women, mainly
Mhm.
immigrants, probably some children as well, at this factory that caught on fire, and the
Mhm.
and the employer had locked all of the doors and windows because they thought that the women were stealing clothing. And so
Mm.
to control that,
They locked
they
everything.
locked everything, and then there was a fire. And
Mhm.
so, you
Yeah.
know, and so that shouldn't happen. And
Mm-mm.
there's stuff like that that happens, unfortunately, still in the world today. And there's varying levels of safety in different countries and in different industries as
Mm-hmm.
well. There's a lot of industries where some safety regulations can move as needed. And so I think that, safety gets a bad rap because
Yeah.
we think it is, oh, the old guy with the clipboard that's going to
Yes.
come in and say, you can't do your job that way.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to do that, and I walk in with the clipboard, and I earlier in my career,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, excuse
No.
me, literally like this. My book said you're supposed to do this, and I'm, as you would expect, pretty quickly dismissed. And so I think I see that as I've had to learn from. It's been difficult, but I see that as like a power that I have because I come in and I
Mm-hmm.
am kind of unassuming and
Mm.
I am going to be relational with these people. And I'm going to say, what is not working well for you right now? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the part of your job that you hate doing? If it's you just don't get paid very much, I probably
I
can't
can't
change
help
that.
you. Yeah, that's not me. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't do that.
My
But
clipboard goes so far. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
exactly,
it's not
exactly.
that.
Yeah, yeah. But I can talk to you, and I can talk to your supervisors,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of see from an outside perspective, which is the nice part about being a consultant right now, is I get to come in and kind of go, okay, from what I see, these are the things that don't look like they're working. Or, hey,
Mm-hmm.
that machine is really not guarded.
Yeah.
And, oh, you did have a laceration with a person that was trying to get a piece of equipment out there. So
Yeah.
like we're able to kind of look at what doesn't function. I think what's exciting to me is like from a system level, we can make changes, like it's pretty fun.
I love that answer because it's like a holistic system. Like the stakeholder ultimately is the community and it's the people
Yeah,
that like you're not there to police anybody, you're there to help them. And it's like more about their rights. That's wonderful. It's a wonderful holistic
absolutely.
view. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how I see it is,
Mm,
and I think that's kind of what keeps me doing it is looking at the whole person, looking at the whole job, looking at the whole industry, and if you've got great safety, you're able to do a lot more better and
totally.
more efficiently, and people feel confident and feel trusted and feel taken care of.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's everybody wins. And like from working in a very, very dangerous environment, like I worked on a deep sea drill ship and then underground, like it's just everything can kill you. Like
yeah,
literally
I was gonna say those
everything.
are the two worst case scenarios. Yeah,
Like you're on your own, like completely
yeah,
isolated and
yeah.
everything can kill you. So like I think that even people within the industry are just so appreciative because I think they do have a high regard for safety precautions
Mm,
because you need to have safety culture or else you're like, this is a very dangerous job and it's a very dangerous environment. And like, so that's wonderful that you have this
mm.
holistic view on safety. And I feel like this is probably answers my question because when on paper, when I was looking at your master's degree, and I was like, okay, how is this related? And this, I'm guessing, is more of like a holistic view of safety and a holistic view of like structural behavior because
Yep.
your master's is in organizational psychology. Is that correct?
That is right. Yeah. So
Oh
that's
my
it's a
goodness.
crazy field. Like I didn't know this field existed
Hmm.
until my prior manager was looking at enrolling in the field and was talking to me about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like tell me
Yeah.
more." So it's industrial and organizational psychology, and it's the same idea as ergonomics. Like,
Mm.
can we make work better for the people doing it?
Oh, love
It's
it.
the same thing. There's a quote, I wish I don't have it, in my mind, but essentially the IO psychologist's goal is to make it where you are never trying to fit a square peg in a round hole at work. You never want
Okay.
people to feel that way. And so your goal is to go in, is to consult, is to work with organizations and try to figure out where are those places where you're coming up against that lack of fit. And I'm researching a lot right now and kind of learning about person organization fit and job person fit and thinking about a lot. No, I'm the only safety person in my cohort where there is an
Yeah.
occupational safety and health component of IO psychology, but I think it's pretty small.
Mm.
And I don't think very many safety professionals are necessarily in this field. I think that it is growing. It is kind of more interesting. I found like 2 women, I think, that are doing this in my network right now. And so it's exciting because, again, I am a systems thinker. So I'm
Mhm.
looking at, okay, if we can fix this system, if we can fix the procedure, if we can kind of, get out in front of this, then we're going to create a safe working environment for our people that are doing the job task. Because it's humans. All of
Mhm.
these humans are running around doing work. They're in a mine. They're
Yeah.
they're on a drill rig. Like,
Yep.
they're in these crazy places and they're going to make human decisions. And they've
Mhm.
got stuff going on in their brain about, oh, Christmas is coming up and I need to, where did I park my car? And, did I go to the grocery store? You kind of have this whole background thought process of stuff that's happening, good, bad, or indifferent, that is taking your attention from a job task. And so we're people make mistakes, they make decisions that maybe on paper are not what we would expect from them. And so I can't control that. Like, as a
Mhm.
safety person,
No.
we try
It's
to,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
sometimes we think that we can control people, that time and again all the research and all the world says, nope, we're not able really to do that. And so if we as safety professionals can come in and say, okay, we can't control people. We can give you some recommendations. We can give you some training. But, like, in terms of eliminating a hazard, we have
A
this
risk.
hierarchy of controls where we're
Yeah.
going, okay, if we can eliminate this, great. Then we don't have a
Mhm.
hazard. Awesome. We did our job. If we can change the way work happens, then that's going to be better than just requesting that a human makes a choice that we think will work best in a hypothetical scenario. Right.
Mhm.
And so this organizational piece, the psychology piece of looking at work, looking at onboarding, looking at hiring, kind of the things organizationally that maybe aren't quite as safety realm,
Mhm.
but if we can understand how those systems work and how work happens in organizations, I'm going to be a better safety
Yeah.
professional because now I understand, is my recommendation for this safe practice going to be functional?
Yeah. Does it fit the system? And like, will
Right.
it actually be able to be like followed? Because I think it like that turns more into like organizational health and culture. And like, is this like
Absolutely.
a culture of psychological safety, which I think is so necessary for physical safety? Because like, are you worried that you're on a time crunch? How are you being paid? Like, how are you like likely to skip a corner, skip a couple tasks because it's easier or because you have a
Right.
benefit behind it, right? Like, there's so much that goes into a decision. I think that's really interesting of being like, people, are they going to be able to make that decision? But it's also, are they going to be able to make that decision every single time under every single part of like externality, background, environment, what's going on in their lives, right?
Right.
Like, that's a cool kind of systemic thing that you're doing and being like, how do we take psychology and how do we put it to a firm, into an organization, and better understand it in safety practice? Like, that's a
Right.
wonderful transition.
Yeah.
Has
And if they do fail, right? If the
mhm,
person does fail,
yeah.
have we created a working environment that's safe for them to fail in?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, because you will have to have like a multi-layered. They can't just be like, it can't be binary of being like, oh, they made
Right.
the wrong decision, they're dead.
Right.
Like, what?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, like you lost a hand. Whoops, too bad. Like, it has to have like
Yeah.
fail safes to it. Yeah, I didn't think of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. I think that and we're probably going into this too, but I've interviewed Jessie Singer and I have her book up here. It's like my
Ah.
new most favorite thing in the world. She wrote this book called There Are No Accidents. And it's the
Oh.
exact same thought process of, are we operating in an environment that is inherently designed for bad things to happen? Uh, is it an accident?
Cool.
Who gets to determine what an accident is? And so I have, like, it is that, you talk about your Roman Empire, right? Like, that's
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
joke
that's
right now.
your
Like,
yeah.
this is me. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, let me tell you about this book, because it is fundamentally changing the way that I think about work and about safety and about my degree that I'm getting right now. Is like, when I graduate, people are going to recognize this degree, hopefully,
Mhm.
that I have, and I will be an organizational psychologist. And so, what can I do to actually put that to good use and make a difference for organizations? And so it gets me very excited to talk about it.
I'm gonna have to read that book. Like, that sounds so fascinating, and like we could probably
It's
spend like
wild.
2 hours there because, like, I feel like that's like that becomes big term, like policy, government, power.
Yes.
Like, it becomes like big companies, like who influences, like what stakeholders have the most power, and like how has a past decision, like stakeholders from the 1960s affect policy now
Right.
or like
Right.
affect like a structure now. That's a really interesting book. I'll definitely tag it to the episode, and I'm excited to
Yeah.
go pick it up. Like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Allison, with your masters, has there been anything that really stands out? Like, the entire process kind of sounds fascinating, truthfully, and it sounds like it's just fundamentally changed the way that you view safety in your role and the environment. But is there anything that stands with you that like you learned and it fundamentally changed the way that you view the world, or like you're like that there was a point before and there was a
Yeah.
point after, or there was like a pre this fact, post this fact, like
Right,
anything
right.
there?
Interesting. Well, I'll say this. I don't know if it is a pre and post, but it's another kind of topic or piece that I keep
Mm.
thinking about it. It's this idea of moral licensing, and I'm gonna have my professor on my
Aw.
podcast to talk to me about it because I'm like, okay, let me tell you, like this is. I need to have a full conversation about this.
Mm,
And so this idea is, and it was kind of originally researched in organizations where you do some sort of racial bias training or
mm,
something kind of focused on let's be kind, generous people
mm,
and learn about our bias in race. And they found that after employees took this training, they were more likely to make a racist decision because they felt like they had the license to make that choice
oh.
because they had done the training.
Whoa.
Isn't that interesting? And so I kind of like I read this paper and then I had to reread the paragraph about 5 times. It's like, whoa. Wait,
Wait a minute. Yeah.
that seems crazy.
Counterintuitive.
And yeah.
Mhm.
And so but then you start thinking about it, you're like, well, we probably do that as people in the world where you go, oh, well, I'm going to read this book by a biopic person and therefore I'm excellent in all things and I operate and make
Yeah.
choices that look nice, and maybe you do, maybe you don't. So
Yeah.
it's just this really fascinating piece of conversation and idea. And I'm thinking about it in terms of, is that transferable? And again, I haven't done the research, but
Mhm.
it's something that may happen in my brain. Is that transferable to safety?
Mm.
Where if we're having people do safety training or do a week of onboarding of super focused safety training, is that
Mm.
giving people the license to make unsafe decisions in the same way? And I
Probably.
don't know if it is or not, but I am like, I want to do some research. It's very fascinating to me. So I think that's the one piece of topic that I've learned that I've kind of gone, what?
Mhm.
you know,
I'm gonna have to read that paper after this. Like, that's gonna be my afternoon. Like, that is
I got you. Yep.
oh, that's crazy. Like, part of me wants to be like, "No, that can't be real." Like, just out of, like, a knee-jerk reaction of being like, "People
Sure.
have to be good." Like, but then you start to think of it and you're like, "Yeah, I honestly that is probably completely real." It's completely counterintuitive, but that
Yeah.
is insane that that research points you in that direction, and I would not be surprised if it also points in that direction with safety. And the other one would probably be environmentalism. That's where I go because that's my
Sure.
lens with, like, more
Yeah.
climate, but, like, I bet you that will then, like, lead to our big talk on environmentalism and what you can do. I bet you that will
Yeah.
lead to then, like, polluting and
Sure. Well,
wow.
I mean, I have a reusable coffee cup,
Yeah.
so it's going to be fine that I throw away all my tin cans. Like
Mhm. Yeah, the balance check of it, of being like, all of a
mhm,
sudden I did one good thing in society, and then that means that, like, that outward expression of morality is checked and like visibly
right.
checked too by the rest of the community, so I'm good.
Right.
I'm
Mhm.
fine now. Like, in my personal life, I can be whatever I would like to be and
Yeah.
have a
Ooh,
negative
interesting. That's a
connotation.
good, yeah. That's a good point. Like the visibility piece of that. I bet that's definitely part of it. That's really
Well,
interesting.
if it's like an open safety thing, because I always kind of would find, even like anecdotally, and this is like a sample size of one, right? That
Yeah.
like should be taken with a lot of bias, but like even
Right.
anecdotally, I could kind of remember some training that we've had, and then all of a sudden some comments come out that you're like, oh, that was inappropriate, that was wrong. No, like that was like, especially about bias and about gender. We had a bunch of presentations about bias and gender within sciences, and then occasionally a couple jokes would come out after that you're like, were those actually jokes? That was actually extremely
Right.
bigoted. But like
Mm-hmm.
anecdotally, you're like, okay, I won't be unfortunately surprised by that. But ooh, that's fascinating. And that's going to be a fascinating episode. Like that's fantastic on you that
Yeah.
he's coming on the show. Like
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. She even
She,
better,
sorry, she,
right?
sorry. No, that's fantastic, Allison. And I wanted to maybe dive into the show because I want to spend like a good chunk of time on the show. And
Sure.
it's you and Gabe and Joshua, all three of
Yep.
you guys co-host the Illusion of Safety podcast. If people are unaware of your show, this is kind of a moment. Could you kind of plug it and just explain the mission behind it and why you guys created this podcast and how you created this podcast? Like are these friends growing up? Are these like within the same organization? Did you guys meet at university? Like the process kind of like formation of the show, why the show exists, and then and its overall mission.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll talk about this forever. So these are not people that I knew from anything. We don't work together. We don't live in the same state. We are solely colleagues in our industry. So
Mm.
we met at a couple different safety conferences and safety networking conferences, one virtual and a couple in person, and just kind of hit it off. Like, you're
Mm.
like, oh, these are my friends. Like
Yeah.
when I met them on, what's weird is in 2020, whatever, 3, 4, you meet people on the internet,
Yeah,
and that's
totally.
that's
Hello.
totally normal. And yeah, hi, here we are. And so we met them online. We kind of connected on LinkedIn. We kept in communication. You'd see, a cool new job thing, good for you.
Mhm.
And then I saw them at the big conference that we went to, and literally I'm the person that ran across the room and was like, my internet friends, and I like,
I love it.
ran to greet them, and they're like, Allison will never forget that. And so because of that, we kind of kept this relationship, and they're kind of this group of friends that I have made. And this past year, we just kind of kept talking. We thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could kind of record these conversations? And
Mhm.
if we have a podcast, then we have an excuse to bring in these other people that we want to talk to, and kind of can have these safety networking. I mean, we have really nerdy
I love it.
conversations that happen at like 10:30 at night, like everybody's like doing the networking thing or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, all right, let's go over here and we're going to like deep dive psychological safety, or
Mm.
what we think about behavior-based safety, or what's working or not working, or what's the trends in the industry that we're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
What are we doing? How do we make this work? How do we make this better? Like, it sounds really ridiculous and aspirational, and I love it. Like, that's what's so fun about it, is it's kind of this place where we can say, hey, you don't have to come with a certain idea or certain perception of what safety is. Like, let's talk about all these different facets of safety, and hopefully at the same time create this collective for safety professionals. And what we're learning now is, it's kind of cool, is we have people that are not necessarily safety
Mm.
professionals that are listening to the episodes. It may be just like 10 people out there, I don't know, but it's fun because like, I've got a buddy who is a railroader, and he's
Mm.
been in that role for 30 years, and he started listening to our show, and he's like, Allison, this is
Mhm.
like, this is really fun, and it's
Mhm.
cool, and it's interesting, and it's making me think about how I do my work differently. And he's sending me articles about his work and his supervisor and like the president of this big organization, and
Mhm.
kind of like, isn't this crazy? And nobody's talking about mental health. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, like, if we can create a space and an avenue to like have these conversations, like we are not here to become podcast influencers or
Yeah.
something silly,
Yeah.
like, but if we can make a space for the people that need it, and kind of
Mhm.
have this collective of safety people, of professionals, people who are just kind of doing work or
Mhm.
around people who are working, that's cool. And we can
Mhm.
make it kind of fun and welcoming and interesting and ridiculous. Probably like we have some we have some ridiculous chaos that also happens. But we need that. Like
Mhm.
safety, and like you said, I mean, safety is usually this horrible, boring topic that no everybody kind of rolls their eyes like, oh, let's go to the safety committee meeting. Hope they at
Mhm.
least brought donuts. And instead, we can actually have some helpful conversations and just I think too, let people know they're not alone. Like
Mhm.
you're not alone in this. And I think often in big organizations or kind of medium to small size organizations, the people that are doing safety, there's probably only one of them. And they don't have people to ask questions of unless they join a society, which again, I'm like,
Yeah.
everyone network at all times with
Go.
anyone. You know, like, and so I think that, if you're a person that's afraid of networking, this is a safe space to do
Mm.
that. This is a way to kind of still get some of those skills and benefits without having to, dress up and do
Yeah,
small
do the
talk.
scary part of networking. Yeah, do the other
Right.
side of it.
Yeah.
My goodness, I love that. I had no idea your guys' kind of origin story, and I didn't know if I just honestly assumed from like seeing some of your stuff of just being like, okay, they've definitely known each other for a long time. But the fact that
Yeah.
like it was just an internet friend,
It's
like
I think like 2, 3 years. Yeah.
but still, like, that makes it so much better that it was just, like, a connection of pure interest and pure personality and just, like, nerdiness, which I
Yep.
always appreciate. I always appreciate a
Yeah.
nerdiness. Like, I'm like, "Let's get the
Yeah.
more niche, the better." Like, I don't care if there's only one person with us, like, the more niche we can go, the better
Right.
for
Let's
me.
do
Like,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
that's where I wanna go. So I love that that was, like, kind of the foundation and that love for what you guys do is kind of the foundation of your show and your podcast. But
Yeah.
what I love the most about it too is listening to some of your material is I took it from a point of view of like non-networking because I'm not within the safety space, but
Yeah.
it did make it really, really fun. And it felt very much for me and my safety, which I know sounds
Mm.
silly or just like duh. Like of course it's for you and your safety. That's what the show's about. But it was it fundamentally changed, I think, the way that I viewed safety. And it felt very for me by experts that maybe might be outside of my circle or like
Mm.
this might be like a resource that I don't have and then to be like
Yeah.
hey have you ever thought of this or like let's talk about like exhaustion, let's talk about mental health, let's talk about how that affects decision making, like just things that
Yeah.
I hadn't really put together in terms of safety. And I think it's like more that psychology basis, but I thought that was really, really beautiful. And it did feel really like empowered for me and a resource that
Mm.
like I could take from that part of your show. I really love and that resonates with me a lot. I
Yeah.
selfishly, it's
Yeah.
a
No,
selfish
I
reservation.
really appreciate it. Yeah.
If we could spend a little bit of time on unlearning and still like I know your guys' mission is and I think you guys are so successful in it that you make it fun and applicable and like for you and anyone that's listening can kind of take their
Yeah.
chunk from it. But
Yeah.
as someone who's not within the safety space and a general public member, what do you think is like the main misconception? If you could have like one thing, I
Mm.
know that there's probably so many, but like what's the one that you're like, if we could just convince the public this one thing, it would be a win.
Oh. Mm. Uh, my joke answer is an N95 is a respirator. Um, no, I think that the main thing that I run into is people's assumption that safety is always going to be a net negative,
Mm,
that safety is always going to cost money, that it's always going to change the way that the work, the current process that's
mhm,
working has to change, that there's this kind of like this
mhm,
shift of, oh, we have to do this, like there's this
mm.
kind of like legal good cop bad cop kind of thing that happens where you just like, we don't have to do this. So I think that's the main thing. And I won't speak for every safety professional, but I will say when I go to an organization, I would love that I could walk in and they wouldn't see me as a person who is there to give them negative feedback
Mm,
only. And so I do a lot of work to build relationships,
mhm,
and like I won't talk to you about safety for the first 15 minutes that I see you, because like I want you to know that I'm here. I
mhm,
care about you as a person. I want to learn about your organization. I'm not going to
mhm.
do a good job if I don't have any trust from you.
Mhm.
There's some stuff out there that safety professionals do have to do really, they have to provide negative advice. And what we always laugh about is that when safety is going well, there's no data to show.
Yeah.
There's nothing to show for it. The zeros. Oh, I
The
won't get off on
shirts.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I won't get off on the tangent
No,
about zeros, but
that just means no
but
one's
that
reporting. Yeah,
right,
yeah, that's
right.
what that
Yeah,
means.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's hard, but I think that that instant negative is probably what I wish would change. We're edging a little bit closer to that every day. So
We haven't talked about it yet, but I don't know why. It should have been a duh. It should have been like an instant of being like, of course your job is like so trust based and you're gonna have to
yeah.
be like really, really good at establishing trust really quickly. Because like, and again of like establishing like I am on your side. I am on the
Hmm.
side of your safety, both mentally and physically. Like I am not on the side that is out to get you or put your job at harm's way. Like I am there for you. But to
Yeah.
communicate that quickly and efficiently. Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And
difficult.
depending on who you're walking around with,
Mhm.
like what's their relationship to that person? Like, here, we brought Allison in today. And you're like, I'm with them, but I'm
Yeah.
a different party, like
Mhm.
it's all relationship, it's like
Yeah.
it's all relationships, it's all those dynamics, which I think is super fascinating. So I think, that's why I still do it, why I'm still excited to go out to
Mhm.
different organizations, because you're like, huh, here we go. We get
Yeah.
to see what happens today,
Yeah, it's dynamic for sure. Yeah, like roll the
Yeah.
dice. Like, yeah, different
Yep.
industries, different people, different like stakeholders with it. Like,
Yep.
I could see it being like super, super freaking interesting. And I could see your day to day being interesting. If we go like one step back, maybe, and we go like big scale, is there any way that we're moving in the safety space that really excites you, that gets you to nerd out
Mm.
and gets that like 10:30 p.m. call
Right.
that you're like, it's just us three, it's me, Gabe, and Josh, just being like,
Yeah.
have you guys read this article and this one and this one and this one? Anything in
Yeah.
that space that is like getting you really fired up?
Absolutely. No, I love that you just said that, because legit, this is true. This has not been manufactured. Legitimately, yesterday, Gabe is he's doing this like leadership cohort,
Mm,
and he just messaged us about psychological safety, which has been like this kind of buzzword in the
mhm,
industry, and we're talking more about it, and we're kind of trying to understand what is the safety professional's role in this, what is not the safety professional's role in psychological safety. There are components of that need to be human resources and the corporate level organization. And so he's messaging us, and he's like, I'm taking this class on psychological safety. And so we, like, I mean, go back and forth like nobody's business. And I legitimately said, hold up, okay, guys, we can't, nobody say anything else. We have to record this. Like, just everyone
yeah.
cease talking about it, because we need to like put this conversation in that little bubble, because it's going to be fun. We think
Mhm,
it'll be a fun time to talk about. So I think, obviously, psychological safety, I think kind of all of the positive, like, proactive steps that you can take for safety, that's kind of been the thing that's happening. And so I'm appreciating that is still continuing,
mhm.
that we're proactively addressing safety versus just going, oh yeah,
Retroactively,
you
the
had these
zero.
incidents, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
you got to zero, okay. So I think that's always good. I think that there's a lot of interesting technology. I am not an expert in that, but I think there's, as everything is kind of,
Oh,
technology is
yeah.
going crazy. AI is really
Oh, that's
wild. I'm a person that's like, what,
what? Yeah. What is this? And like,
yeah, but
oh.
I mean, it's out there. It's out there, and people are using AI to write their programs
Mhm,
and their safety programs, and kind of going in and then doing their edits to make it more specific and correct. And that's interesting. And so then you go,
mhm.
okay, and then we
The
think back
ethics
systemly,
behind
right?
that. Yeah.
What's the ethics
Yeah.
behind that? where did the AI learn how to write a safety program? Like, whose
Mhm.
program is it using? Those are all really interesting questions. So I don't know. It's interesting. There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff out there that is wild and crazy, but I think it's all kind of trending in a way that makes me excited to keep doing this work.
Mhm.
Like, what I feel often is I
Mhm.
think, okay, this stuff is all fine and good, and I'm glad there's people out there that are doing this research, and we're getting on these cool trends, and we have AI, and like, cool, great. What I all the time think that I want to get back to the grassroots. I want to get back
Mm.
to like the people on the ground. Like, how are we actually making this industry better for the
Mhm.
people that are doing it in these tiny organizations? Like, AI is awesome and cool, and we have this cool technology. But if you're a person who's working for an organization,
That doesn't have that.
you're the safety generalist. You don't
Mhm.
have a budget. You are begging for training and education budget at all times. You're like hoping that you can get the right PPE and
Yeah.
that it works for your people. We need both. You know, you need the like huge, massive scale industry wide,
Big picture.
the big picture.
Mhm.
But I think that and maybe that's, I don't know, that's kind of where I see our
Mm.
podcast existing, is like for the people that don't have that,
Mhm. That
or to see it and
resource.
go, cool, that's never going to work for me. How do we make their jobs better? How do we make them feel like they're a part of this big huge industry
Mm.
and are able to kind of have that knowledge or have those conversations with their corporate leaders, and maybe eventually have the tools that they could request some of that
Mhm.
if applicable. So I think, yeah, that's my less glamorous answer of where I
No.
hope the field ends up, you know?
I honestly I think that there's a beauty in less glamour and a beauty in simplicity, especially in something that at its root we're talking really like abstract concepts this entire
Right.
time of like talking
Right.
about safety, but like if you really bring it back at its roots, it's about protecting people. So like I
For
think the
sure.
right answer is that the future needs to talk to the stakeholders that actually matter and are actually
Mhm.
boots on the ground, and like an abstract talk about safety and about like the structure of safety is really useful in one way, but like is it actually being put into place? What do those people need? Like bringing them back into the fold, I think is probably the best answer you could give. And like the
Yeah.
best way forward is probably a way backwards in a way of like
Yeah.
going back to the beginning of it and back to like what's important and who,
Mhm.
like to put a name on it. Like this isn't just a
Yeah.
policy for like safety. This is a policy for Dave. Or this is like a
Right.
way that like
Yeah. Yeah.
Janet can like structure her organization, or this is a way that like Aisha can like kind of create
Mhm.
something to
Mhm.
step forward in the right direction, right? And like give her
Yeah.
people PPE. Like it's in a way that actually puts a face and name to what you're doing, which I
Yeah.
really like. To end it, and this is going to be a little bit of a jump because we haven't really gone here yet, but it's this space, because it's industrial and because it's safety based, it's notoriously male dominated. I was wondering if you could give any advice to maybe other women who are within these roles, maybe they're just starting in these spaces, anything that you'd be like, okay, well, this helped me when I made my transition back in the
Yeah.
day and I went from dance to this, like, and I was like, what is happening? This helped me get
Yeah.
here. Like any advice there? I know like one
Yeah.
component we didn't talk about is that you're also a big part of communities and like you're a big part of like women in safety excellence and then the American
Right.
Society of Safety Professionals. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
that's going to be your answer. I don't want to do a leading question and be like, are you,
Yeah.
is this it? Is this the thing that
Right?
helped you right here? But like I don't know if that's part of it, but if it's
Yeah.
community or something else or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
any advice?
Absolutely. Okay. So
Mhm.
here's the organization. So ASSP and WISE that you both talked about, really getting involved and finding a network of,
Mhm.
for me, it was very important to find women that were doing this job.
Mhm.
Some of those women, a lot of them, thankfully, are my mentors or people who I can ask questions of all the time. It's
Mhm.
awesome. I am on the board of Wise now, and so yeah, it's like it's a cool, like, I at this
Yeah.
last conference we were there, and I'm like, technically it's called the advisory committee, and it was this feeling of like, for
Mm.
years when I first started in safety, I was just like, how do I be that woman? How can I?
Mhm.
And how great that I had a woman that I could
Yeah.
point to and go, I
Her.
want to be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I want
Mhm.
to be the person that's on that committee. Like there was a picture of all of them. It's so funny now. Like there's a picture of all these women that were on the advisory committee in front of like the ASSP sign. And
Mhm.
I was like, I want to be in that picture. Like I'm such
Mm.
a visual person. And I just was like, I don't know
Yeah.
how I'm going to get there, but like I want to be in that picture. And, you know, it's legitimately just like raising your hand and volunteering and saying, I'll be the person that helps put stuff on social media, or I'll be
Yeah.
the person that helps, write up these little interview spotlights that we did for women in our industry, and just kind of keep continuing to network, continuing to talk to people. I all the time say, I swear by it, the best networking happens in the like 15 minutes before and after meetings, like
Mhm.
you can just make sure you're in the room. Like you can leave during the actual meeting. I don't care, but like
Go to
be there
sleep.
for the, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But be there for those little in between
Mhm.
times and just put yourself out there, because worst case scenario, people go, who's that Allison? My
Mhm.
gosh, she's crazy. And you go, well, okay,
It
cool.
doesn't
That's,
matter.
that's
See you later.
fine. That
Mhm.
thanks for coming. But those are some opportunities, or after sessions or things where you get something out of a speaker's conversation, or you learn something. Like tell them. Everyone loves hearing that something that they did and they put time into
Mhm.
is meaningful to them. And so that's like, know that that's true. And even
Mhm.
if you get a weird response back from them, like at least you shared that something was impactful to you.
Mhm.
And 99% of the time, it's going to be beneficial. And it might even turn into this
An
cool
opportunity.
relationship, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. I also, some of those women like Abby Ferry and Rachel
Mhm.
Hausman, they've coined, they use it all the time in talking about our industry and saying that it's just male populated, you
I
know?
like that
It's
instead of dominated. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's male populated, and we're also here. and
Mhm.
and I think
Yeah.
it's cool that we're growing. There's a lot of women and trans women and non-binary women that are
Mhm.
joining this field, and it's so exciting. And we're also getting really helpful policies. And there's a new organization now called Safety is for Everyone, and they're doing a lot of really great work to make sure that our safety policies are inclusive for
Mhm.
every component of person that could be out there. If you're asking people to travel for work, where are you
Yeah.
asking them to go? And
Mhm.
is that place hospitable to this person? So I think just the more people we can get in this circle, the better.
Mhm.
Like I think that
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah.
Like the more people we can say, hey, this is a space and this is available to you, and it's
Mhm.
a great job. Like it's a
Mhm.
it's a good job.
Yeah. Come,
Like it
please.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great field. Like who would have thought that this art kid would be
Mhm.
able to have a paycheck that like I wasn't embarrassed of. Like that's crazy. You know, talk about the trades too. Also, friends,
Yes.
right? Like
Mhm.
it is
Yeah.
a great field. And so I think that's one thing is, join those networking groups. And I think it's hard, but try to find a way to be yourself still
Mhm.
in the job that you have.
Mm.
I had a hard time. It was very, very male populated,
Yeah.
my first job in safety. And I was working in utilities. And
Mm.
I mean, if I showed up in the steel toe boots that they wanted to sell me at the store, I would have been laughed off the plant, right? Like
Yeah, it would have been like
like
clown shoes. Like
they've
it
been
would
like,
have not for you. This is
really
unsafe.
pink on those, Allison.
Yeah.
You picked out the pink ones. And so I had to advocate for myself, and I had to
Mhm.
fight and say, like, I'm not wearing like they were tennis shoe steel toes that had little pink
Oh.
rivets on
Oh,
them.
I know
And I was
exactly
like,
the ones that you're talking about. Yes. Yeah, I had the same pair when I first started.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Because it was all that was available in the store. And I went with 5 other men that were also new hires,
Mhm.
and they all got these awesome boots. And I was
Yeah.
just like, can I have those?
Yeah, like,
Like
"Excuse
what?
you? What the hell?"
Like I would
Yeah.
also like ankle support.
Women
You
too
know,
have ankles. We also
yeah.
have that body part that needs to be
Let everyone
protected.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Our ankles
Yeah,
exist, please. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, so I felt most comfortable dressing it like the men in the field. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was able to get more respect if I was dressing like them.
Yeah.
And I've kind of I don't think that's required. You know, I've kind
Mm-hmm.
of shifted as I've gone along here of realizing like maybe I don't have to wear, you know, the Carhartt vest and the
Yeah.
whatever, which I still do. Like I'm definitely still wearing it. Like I rolled up in my khakis and my steel toes and my
Yeah.
Carhartt to my last job site.
It feels more
But I
authentic.
can wear these crazy earrings
Yeah.
if I'm not in a manufacturing plant. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I can make choices that feel like myself
Mm-hmm.
and know 10 years in now, like, okay, you're
Mm-hmm.
anybody can do this job.
Yeah.
There's not an appearance threshold that you
Yeah.
have to meet. And so I think be generous with yourself is probably what I would tell people that are trying to get into
Mm-hmm.
safety or into a field that is STEM based. Like just be gentle with yourself. The world will give you a lot of expectations of what you're supposed to look like, how you're supposed to talk, your
Do.
tone of voice
Yeah.
when you have a conversation about your work. And more, I'm reminding myself, like, hey, you know that little kid, like this is silly, but like I
Yeah.
have
It's
on
very
my picture back
powerful.
here,
Yeah, it's very
I
powerful.
have this like
Mm-hmm.
little baby picture of Allison in my little ballet costume. I don't know how old I am, like 10 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I just leave it up there on my
Mm-hmm.
shelf. Like I see it all the time. And I just kind of go, okay, check in with yourself and
Mm-hmm.
realize you were that kid. You've had all these things happen to you, good, bad, and different
Mm-hmm.
since that time. And so like that kid's super proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
And also like a reminder that that little kid is still here
Here.
too.
Yeah.
And so like you can like that kid 1,000% would be like, oh my
Yeah.
God, do you
I
wear
love
those
your
earrings today? Yeah,
earrings.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Those earrings are
Yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah. And like, so
Yeah.
it's just like, and that's good. Like that's a fun thing. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I can talk to a president of an organization and I don't have to go into corporate speak, Allison. I
Mm-hmm.
can walk the walk if I need to, but I realize more and more I'm going to connect with people so much more
Yeah.
if I let them see how I get super excited about
Mm-hmm.
system safety, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that it's hard to learn. I think I can give all that advice and
I
it's
think
not
you
going to get in your brain, you know, like
it's gonna take a while. I agree,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I couldn't agree more though. Like the entire time, I wanted to be like facts, facts, facts. Like I agree with
yeah,
every single thing that you brought up, and like I'm so happy that you brought back like the success rate of it, because I think that like everyone kind of falls into that trap, and like yes, this is wonderful advice, it is hard to do right off the get-go. Both
yeah,
of us did not do it right off the get-go, and that's why it's our advice to like younger people,
yeah,
because it's like I did the exact same trap. Most women in male populated, which I'm definitely going to steal as a term, in male
absolutely. Yep.
in male populated environments do that. They change their presentation, but like
Yeah.
I had the most success in like opportunities like this, the most success of like networking, building community, meeting people that were also within this space, like other women that I admire, other people that I look up to that I'm like, oh my God, I want to be like her too, or like bring her into my circle. Like I got the most success when I was finally being an authentic person and actually being myself in whatever environment or room that I stepped into. But it took a long time. Like when I first entered mining, I was 19. I was
Wow.
really, really young up in Northern Canada in a mining camp. And me and my partner always talk about this because that was the summer they ran out of student housing. And so they put me with the drillers. I was
Oh my
19
God.
years old and I was living with 50-year-old Northern Quebecois drillers that only spoke French. And I speak like really like, like hoity toity French. And so we didn't understand each other whatsoever. Like they were from Chibougamau and like we were just in like, but it was like in an environment where like, this is an aside, but like I was just so fish out of water that,
Yeah.
and I was not confident enough to be like, okay, I'm Alexis and this is who I am. I pretended to be like, je suis Alex from like Chibougamau. Like I just tried to conform as much as I could. And like, could I?
Right.
No, there was no success rate. Like I don't think I made one friend. I think people were like, who the fuck is that girl?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what? Like it didn't work. There was no way that it was gonna work. Like it was just, yeah. So I couldn't agree more
Yeah.
with that. And like the one kind of plug I'll put with Peggy, and I'm so happy that you like brought up that photo of you as a kid. Like that's why I did Scoundrel since day one. Like that's where that idea came from. Is like I think in these spaces, if you know, you know, but you
Right.
know how hard it is with identity and hard it is with femininity and balancing that internal, like, who am I in this space? And so I think having a reference of like the young girl or the young non-binary person that you were, like having
Yeah.
that reference frame is so beautiful. And to be like both of these people, they exist and they're one and the same.
Yeah.
And they both
Yeah.
like, I think probably because of society, but like in a lot of older photos, you have a lot more like maybe girly things, but maybe you're still very girly. And like that's
Right.
fine. Like both of these can
Right.
exist within these spaces. So I
Mhm.
love that. Like I love looking at like or having that reference point of like a
Yeah.
younger person and giving yourself grace. I think that's beautiful advice. I really do. And
Yeah. Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah.
And I love the
Yeah.
plug too for like for your organizations and for being part of a community. And like whether that's networking or whether that's like virtual, I think that's necessary. And like
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's only scary the first time you do it, and then everyone
Right.
else is, like, so excited that you're there, so, like, you'll be
Right.
fine. All you have to do is, like, say hi to one person and you're in, like, really.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's usually a person that's it's their first time there, and you're like, "Okay, I have a buddy," like,
Yeah.
I all the time that's why I'm always like, "If you need me to be your wing person, like, say the word, and I will be your networking." I'll be like, "Have you met this person?
Have you
Come
met
over
Ted?
here." Yeah, yeah, no, yes, yes, I'm like, "Have you met Ted?"
Yeah.
Exactly. I am that way because it's like, that's what we need. Like I think now it's like this cool because I'm here because I'm able to do this. Like now I've kind of shifted to go, oh wait, I'm realizing like I get to be that person for some people.
Mhm.
That's pretty exciting. Like and so now like that's what lights me up is like,
Mhm.
oh, I can be the person that makes a space and lets people know like this is a cool place to work or this is how you get in this club,
Yeah.
like come on. I like how much
Yeah.
fun. It's my favorite thing in the world to talk to people who are considering doing safety or
Mhm.
want some advice or how to study
Mhm.
for their exams or things, like I will share everything I know. I think safety all safety professionals that I've run into, like we are all like that. We
Oh,
all want people to succeed,
yeah.
because it's we're
That's
helpers.
the
We
name of
want,
the game. Yeah, exactly. Like,
exactly.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is like what you guys, your reason for being. No, I love that, and I couldn't agree more. Of like being like, I love that. That's the next level. That's the next
Yeah.
transformation. Is like being a mentor and being on the board and being able to
Yeah.
like have impact and help maybe younger Allison in the tutu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. That's so. That's absolutely beautiful and just thank you so much. It was so nice to meet my internet friend. And like,
Yes.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I couldn't even remember who reached out to who because it was so mutual at the same time of being like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, this is so. So it's just like, it was so nice. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was an absolute blast. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No, this is awesome. And for everybody listening, I hope you loved this episode. Thank you very much for listening. That's awesome. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye bye.